Greetings, greetings, family. We are live. Thank you so much for your patience. My apologies, we are a few minutes late. We were experiencing some technical problems behind the scene, but it looks as though we are now live. I'm just going to go over and check that we are indeed live on YouTube. Please spread the word. Let the family know that we are live. Wow, wow, wow. As those of you who've been following this channel for a little while will know of the challenges that I was getting via StreamYard. So I dropped StreamYard and I went to one of our very own Black-owned platforms. They started having challenges after a while, you know, possibly cyber attacks. And so I went over to Zoom, and now Zoom is giving me challenges. So, you know, but we are on now. Thank you so, so much for your patience. As you can see, Dr. Abu is in the house. Rise up, Dr. Abu.
Budum family, Budum sister Shanice, you know, and Budum sister Pauline, sister Pauline, rise up all the time, and the family in general, rise up.
Rise up, rise up. Good to have you in the house, Dr. Abu. Also, let's rise up and welcome our special guest today, not a regular on our platform, so she's new. Sister Pauline. Welcome, Pauline.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm going to apologise in advance because I've caught a cold and I'm hoping I'm not going to have a coughing fit, but welcome everybody and thank you, sister, for inviting me today, Sister Shanice. Thank you.
It's a privilege and an honour. We're delighted to have you on board. And first of all, let me also welcome the audience as they come in. Thank you so much in advance for participating in the show today. We do have a live chat, so you can actually post your comments, your questions, your thoughts and opinions in the chat. And so, yeah, please let everybody know that we are now live. We had some technical hitches that prevented us coming out at the top of the hour. But we are now in and ready to fire. Let me ask Dr. Abu to introduce himself to the audience and also tell us about the African Liberation, not the African Liberation Day, the Parents and Ancestors Day event that's coming up.
Well, I'll give the opening to Sister Pauline, you know.
Okay, Dr. Abu.
You. Okay, well, suppose today, Sister Shanice saw something.
Let me introduce you properly, Sister Pauline. You know, we normally allow a minute or two for our family to come through the door and for them to get settled before I go into like the introductions of our special guests, because I want everybody to know who you are and what you do. But you know, that's okay. We can do it that way around, and people can certainly find out via catch up as well. But before we do that, why don't I just remind the family of some of the wonderful, wonderful guests that have been gracing this stage over the last couple of strongs, and who we've got coming up. And as I do that, that will give family a moment or two to come through the door as well. Now let's see if I can share screen here. Yes, this looks promising. So I'm going over to share screen. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, fantastic. So family, just a reminder of some of the awesome guests that we've had come through the door. Our sister, Mama Desta, Diaspora African Forum representative. She spoke about the formidable work that she was doing in support of the diaspora and how she links in to the African Union. great works there. We also had our brother Andrew Mohammed doing phenomenal works in the community. He's a Black history and cultural historian. He's a specialist when it comes to working within the education sector. He's an author, he's a film critic. He has his own shows live every Tuesday, which are just awesome. It was a privilege to have him in the house. Then we had brother Naya Imira, who's doing amazing work supporting Saturday schools nationally in the UKKK. And so, you know, you can go and review these shows on the Sister Shanice Show channel. Okay, then we had our very own Leo Mohammed. Wow, he blew the stage away back on the 6th of April. And again, if you missed his show, you can go back and watch it on the Sister Shanice Show. The good news is that he will be coming back. And then we had one of our panel debates and discussions, which as always were impactful and deeply insightful. And this one isn't going to be any different, except we won't have Sister Sheila, who unfortunately is unable to make it today. She's away on holiday. She was hoping that she'd be able to log in on time, but hasn't been able to do so. Then we had Leader Bandaka, spiritual leader of the Al-Qaeda revivalist movement, continuing with his topics on assassinated revolutionary leaders. And wow, he went into the story of Patrice Lumumba. And it was just, it's one of those heart-wrenching stories. But we need to know what happened to our greats who decided to stand up and support us as a people. Then following the show that was delivered by Leader Bandaka, we had Dr. Reverend Shaq Matthews. Wow. He was telling us about the first frequency, that we are first frequency people, and highlighting what the impact of operating at second frequency level is having on us as a people. A whole new vocabulary he dropped on us, family. And you can go back and watch that on the Sister Shanice Show channel. Then we had Last Strong, oh my gosh, Franklin Jones, who just tore up the place, author of the Black People's Matrix. He was talking about the psychological warfare that has been waged against us as a people. He was a soldier in the Iraqi war, and he saw the PSYOPs operation that they introduced there. And as he was getting trained, he realized this is what's happening to us as a people, and he's made it his life mission now to make us aware of how the psychological brainwashing works, why it is, you know, that we tend to implode on ourselves when we try to do anything, why we have a negative perception of ourselves. He shows us all the different mediums and the different tools that's actually used to keep us mentally enslaved and our minds in chains. So if you want to get out of that mental enslavement, and if you want to be able to accomplish all that you have the potential to do, then you need to watch that show with our brother Franklin Jones on the Sister Shanice Show channel. And today, family, unfortunately, we don't have Sister Sheila, as I said. Kwame Gonza is going to try and join us, but you know, he's on the continent, and we do have the challenges on the continent. And brother Jammers, you know, he normally comes in at some point during the show. So all being well, he'll be joining us. And we have our special guest, Pauline Campbell. And next, Strong family, we're going to be beaming in all the way from the USA, Dr. Clyde Winters. My gosh, this man, he is a walking historian. He has an abundance of knowledge of our people and our existence in Europe. And he's going to be bringing a vast amount of research and information for us to chew over next Strong. So you don't want to miss the show next Strong. We've got him, fortunately, for 2 Strongs. And then we've got our brother, Professor Kaba, who most of you will know from Hidden Colors. He was the star expert on Hidden Colors. You know, we are honored as well to have him gracing the platforms. I want to rise up Sister Etana for all the help and support in bringing all of these wonderful guests onto this platform. So hopefully, you know, I've familiarized you, family, with what we've got coming up. And let me go over now. And Dr. Abu, before I introduce the guests, do you want to say a little bit about ALD? sorry, not ALD, parents and ancestors, did it again.
Yeah, it's a yearly celebration of our parents and ancestors, and we always celebrate it on the 6th of the 6th, But this year we're gonna have a celebration on the 3rd, Friday the 3rd, at the Ems Community Center and Belenden Road, I think. Belenden Road here in Peckham. We're not put out
it's
there.
Actually on Elm Grove.
Yes.
Elm Grove. At the end, it's at the top of Bellenden Road.
Yes. And it's just to pay a tribute to our parents and ancestors. You understand? Especially at this time, the whole reparation movement this year should be around our parents and the whole Windrush situation. And we have to start to use the time them that we have and use them wisely.
Ooh, sorry about that. Let me log out. Yes, absolutely.
So look out for the promotion and the leaflet them that we'll put out on the Parents and Ancestral Day.
Behind the scenes, Dr. Abu, I have been trying to get the leaflet up. The good news is I do have the leaflet. So let me just pull that up now. Apologies, I still had Skype on. Here we go. I think it's this one. Let me just check and make sure before I put it up there. No, that's the ALD advert. Okay, just got to wait for the leaflet to drop down there. But I will be able to bring that leaflet up in a very short while, family, so that you can actually see the leaflet that promotes our Parents and Ancestors Day event. Okay, so while I wait for that to come up, looks as though, and apologies, the computer's running slow. It doesn't normally, except for this time on a Wednesday evening. I wonder why. Anyway, we press on. So let me open up and play for you the ALD advert. So I'm just gonna get it ready, and then I'll share screen so that we can take a look, hopefully, at that advert. Right, it's saying it, right, right, go back over to share screen. Family, we welcome you in the house as you're coming in. Just gonna go over and share screen so that you can see the advert for the African Liberation Day event that's been organized by our brothers and sisters and our family in Berminstrong. It is a QuickTime player. Let's see if I can get that open. It doesn't help trying to multitask here when the system doesn't want me to do so. So I wonder if I can show you it via WhatsApp. Hang on, no, that's the meeting that's come up. So you know what, family, I'll work on it behind the scenes, and as soon as it is working, I will bring it up. Okay, let me just force quit for now, and because I'm trying to multitask on a computer that's running too slow, it is not having it. So let me go over to the chat right now and see who we've got in the house. Welcome to our audience. Thank you for bearing with us in spite of all the challenges that we've been having. I'm glad that we can welcome some of the family members who are in the house with us today. We've got Papa Cheesy in the house. Welcome. We've got Sister Lily in the house. Welcome. Brother Kimani in the house. Welcome. Jay's in the house. Sister Afrijama's in the house. I want to welcome all of you, each and every one of you. And thank you for bigging up the family as well. Thank you for bearing with us. As you can see, we've had a few technical challenges, but you know, we're pressing on regardless. And I'll be going back to the chat. So please do drop your thoughts, comments, and opinions in there. We welcome you, Sister V. We welcome you, Brother Jay, as well. We welcome you. We welcome you. Papa Cheesy, Sister Afajama, it's always great to have you all in the house. Right, let me, I think, go over and start the discussion that we're going to be having today. A very serious conversation, as always, because there's so much, there's always so much that's happening to us as a people in this community, and we have to keep our eyes and ears open all the time. Well, today, family, we have the pleasure of having our sister, Pauline Campbell, who is a senior litigation lawyer at the London Borough of Waltham Forest. And she is no stranger to being interviewed. She often gets called upon by mainstream media such as Radio 4, Times Radio, Talk Radio, the BBC Radio, all of those, Channel 4, etc. But of course, she still has time, for our platform, which gives us the opportunity to keep it real and talk about issues that are impacting on us as a people. She's been involved in numerous publications. She's an award-winning lawyer as well, and so is her litigation team. And not only does she operate at a very professional level, and not only has she won many awards, but she also does quite a lot of pro bono work as well. And she is the supervisor for the Windrush Justice Clinic, and she's also doing pro bono work as the legal advisor to the Windrush Reach project. Her interest is Black history and public speaking, and so it is a pleasure to have our sister join us today to speak to us about the Human Rights Act. Let's go over to our sister Pauline. Welcome, my sis. Hopefully our computer hasn't frozen.
Hi, thank you. Do you know what I think's happened? My mainstream PowerPoint needs to be put in. It's like it's only hanging out. So I'm just going to plug it in very quickly to make sure I get more power. Yeah? Can you hear me?
Brilliant. Yes, we're
Let me do that because I can't see why the signal is so low, but I'm just going to do that right now.
Okay, all righty. So let's allow our sis to get her power supply on, and then she's going to come right back with us. Let me just put her in the waiting room while that is going on. And let me see if by any chance in the meantime, the ALD advert has opened up. Let me try and open it with a QuickTime player and see what happens. These things always, well, I was playing it earlier and it was quite fine, and now I want to play it for you. It's dancing at the bottom of the screen, but we will be bringing that on at some point in the show today. Let's see if our sister is ready. Let's readmit her and see if all is well behind the scenes. Okay, she's just coming back with us. Yeah, brilliant. Yes, our sis is back with us.
Yeah.
Okay, over to you. Go ahead and share
Okay,
screen.
I apologize. So I think, where am I starting from? I think what's important is that everybody can hear how I speak. And it's been a journey for me as a lawyer, because to talk about the Human Rights Act, we can't talk about it without thinking about each one of our own journeys and how we have got to where we are today. And when my father passed away in 2013, strong, hard, positive Jamaican man who didn't take any prisoners at all. When anybody treated him badly, he would deal with them appropriately straight away. That's how my dad was. When he died, I realized that I had lost my way a bit. And so I wrote a book called Rice and Peas and Fish and Chips to depict our journey for the last 50, 60 years in this country. And that's the beginning of the journey for me. So how I look at it now is that one thing we have to remember about human rights is that everything we're doing and everything we are in relation to British law tells us from the beginning of time, when human rights were in place, the enslaved were not determined to be human beings. That's the beginning of our journey when you're looking at human rights in this country. We were chattel. So we were never considered to be human beings. So our journey has been starting from that point. So when I talk about the Human Rights Act now, the government talk about pieces of legislation and law that goes right back to the Magna Carta and goes back to the 17th century. But what the government don't think about when they're talking about human rights and they claim these pieces of legislation, that at those times, people of color, Black African people, were chattel. And those rights did not ever apply to us because we were not determined to be human beings. Now, they don't make any reference to that in anything that they're doing in relation to anything they've ever done. And that is the first acknowledgement that we've got to bear in mind when we look at anything the government are doing or any government do. So I want us to have that in our mind when we're thinking about the progression of human rights, because for everybody else, there was never this treatment of not being determined to be a human being. But for us, that was our beginning when it comes to the way the white population treated us. That's something I hope we can continuously acknowledge throughout our journey. We don't hold it as a stick to beat them with, but we know the knowledge. And we know that when you talk about human rights, can you please acknowledge that you didn't determine us to be human beings? Because that's the only way you could maintain and justify the enslavement of millions and millions for hundreds and hundreds of years. So that's one of the things I wanted to start with when we talk about human rights, because we're not stupid and we know the coup. But now we can talk about where we're going. In 1998, the Labour government created and put together the Human Rights Act 1998. And that act was going to include all the things that the European Court of Human Rights encompasses, which is a court based in Europe, in Strasbourg, which oversees all the things that governments across Europe do. And if they don't do things right, this government, the Court of Human Rights, can step in from Europe and say, you need to change what you're doing. That's effectively what the British government did. They basically just combined the Human Rights Act with what the European Court of Human Rights was doing. And for all these years, 25 years, that law has been in place. And when Labour brought it in, they brought it in because they felt that it was important that we aligned ourselves with what everybody else was doing in Europe to protect our rights. But years later, as of now, the Conservative government have made it clear that they don't believe that the Human Rights Act that was created 25 years ago is sufficient and is fit for purpose any longer. And the reason for that is because they do not like the idea that a European law can oversee their law. And so what they want to do is they effectively want to overhaul the 1998 Human Rights Act and replace it with the British Bill of Rights. And that is what I'm going to basically give a quick overview of today. And what we've got to think about is, why does this government feel it's appropriate to get rid of the current human rights bill? And how is it going to impact on us as Black people? And Sister Shanice kindly asked me a few questions so that I could focus my mind, which I'm appreciative of. And one of the things that we have to think about is human rights isn't just about Black people. Human rights affects every single person on this earth in some way or another. But one of the things we've got to remember about human rights is we know that it will disproportionately affect some of us more than others. Because if you don't have rights, that's when they mean something to you. But if you have rights, they don't mean anything to you. But we know that when things come into play, which is a change in the law, which is linked to social justice, it's going to come to us in some way, and we're going to feel it in some way, whether it's now or whether it's later. So what I did was I took a good look at what the government wanted to do. And one of the things they said they wanted to do it for was because they believed that there's been an inflation of rights, in the sense of, I don't know how many of us think about this, but maybe we don't all agree. But what the government are saying is that if we do something in this country and this government rule it to be wrong in some way, and Europe step in and tell the government, you are wrong in what you're doing, and this government have to take that into account, they hate it. They don't like it. And I can make the connection now with our community, because the deportation and the flights out to the Caribbean, Jamaica, flights of deportation for people who have lived in this country for 30 years or longer. If they commit an offence, Priti Patel wants to put them on a plane and send them back to a country that they've never lived in. That is human rights. And when lawyers step in to defend those rights, Priti Patel describes us as lefty lawyers. Because to her, us stepping in to defend the rights of people who need their rights defended puts the government in a bad light, and they don't like it. So we are dealing with a government who want to change the human rights. And when I put it like that, you understand where they're going with it. Because they're saying that the rights are going to be that one of the things that gave them reasons for concern is prisoners. The government did a blanket ban on prisoners being allowed to vote. Now, you may agree with that and say that some prisoners, why should they vote? They've broken the law. They've got no right to be in society. So while they're in prison, they have no right to vote. But one of the things that we have to think about when we're looking at the prisoners' rights to vote is we are not just talking about white prisoners here. Black people are disproportionately represented within the justice system. We know that the justice system is not equitable, it is not fair. So a number of Black people are sitting in jail now on joint enterprise when they haven't even done anything. They've just been a part of it. And that's the biggest problem we have. So you've got a lot of prisoners who want to vote, who want their right to vote. And a number of Black men and women in prison educate themselves, self-educate themselves to the point where they know they want more for their lives. There are people who go to prisons and empower these young men and empower these young women so that they begin to get a consciousness of who they are. And that is an amazing thing. But what the government are saying is they want to take away, or they didn't think it was right that they had the right to vote. And when Europe looked at it, they said that was a breach of the prisoners' right to free election. And these are one of the reasons why the government want to get rid of this old piece of legislation and bring in the new, because they say prisoners don't have the right to human rights. And we as Black people know the majority of Black people that go before the courts get custodial sentences as opposed to their white counterparts, even when it's not justified. So on the backdrop of that, the government are effectively saying that they want us to rethink our rights in relation to human rights. And they're bringing in this piece of legislation, but it's only a proposal. They've done everything they need to do to try and make it law, but there's a lot of opposition against it. So it's not law yet. And we're hoping that it doesn't become law. But one of the things that people are saying is they've reviewed it, they've looked at what the government want to do, and they're saying, why do you need to completely change the Human Rights Act? Why can't you just build on it or take some things out and put some things in? If Britain succeed in doing this, they will be the first country in Europe ever to scrap one piece of legislation like the Human Rights Act and put in their own. And the reason that I think it's important that we understand what's happening is that if for some reason they get what they want, we know that they tell us today that it's not going to affect our community. But we know that tomorrow, like it did with the hostile environment, which wasn't meant to touch the Caribbeans in any way, we are going to find that we are a part of this issue of where our rights stand and where they don't. So it's something that I'm really watching, and I would strongly advise that you read up on this and you look at what's happening, because the government have done a 128-page document, excuse me, and it went for consultation in March. It's now come back, and Dominic Raab, who is the Justice Secretary, has made it clear that he doesn't believe in social economic justice. And that's what the Conservative government are saying. We want you guys to look after your own rights, leave us to look after our British rights, and let us create a new act. And that's extremely terrifying that that's what they want to do. But at the moment, we are blessed because a lot of people are fighting against it. We know what it's about, but it's not law yet. If it becomes law, they've got a lot of work to do before it can become law. And I suppose that's what it is. It's effectively saying that they're unhappy, there's too many rights, people are getting away with murder because they go to the Human Rights Court too often, and they want to bring back some level of common sense to the approach of human rights, which means restricting certain things that are contained within the Human Rights Act now. And I suppose that's an overview of the Human Rights Act and where we're going with it. But it's called the British Bill of Rights. That is what they want to replace with the current Human Rights Act 1998 that is currently in place. So, I mean, Sister Shanice, Brother Abu, if there's anything you want to ask or anybody wants to ask about that, I'd be happy to go into more detail, but I know that some people may have some questions. So that's an overview of it.
Thank you so much for that overview, Sister Pauline. I see, lots of comments in the chat, but yes, let's go in-house first, and then we'll go over to our wonderful audience to hear what they have to say. Dr. Abu, any immediate thoughts, comments, concerns, matters that you would like to raise in response to Sister Pauline's opening remarks?
I just want to rise up Sister Pauline for wonderful overview, because I mean, I'm totally illiterate to that field, but I understand that if we don't support one another, we can't come through this. You understand? And I like what she said a while ago when she said that if a lawyer tried to defend, you understand, some immigration, then brand them as some lefty, you know, and this is it's called systematic hate, you know, and this is what I'm trying to make a lot of our people understand, you know. When our parents, those young people, stand up for their human rights against the authority, they have a systematical hate that them carrying over. For every time them see young Black people, it reminds them of our parents. You know, and this is right true. A lot of people doesn't, and when I said, people said, oh, I'm crazy. I'm not crazy. These are same as how they see those lawyers as defending. It's same way our parents were defending, and it's one thing with the British. Some of these British, what they call nobility or aristocrat, them hate when Black people stand up for their right, you know? And a lot of the things that we are facing today is because what our parents stand up for. You understand? And if we don't build on that legacy, then we're gonna lose a lot of things. So I do appreciate what the sister have to say, you understand? Because they're pushing a lot of us that look like us, even to deny us our own thing, because as I said, I am not afraid to say it, but when I hear Don Butler come and I write about we must build on Stephen Lawrence's legacy and forgot that she have a parents that come into this country and the Windrush scandal and all of them things. These are the legacy that we should have built. We can't build on the leaf, we got to build on the root of the tree. You know, so give thanks, Sister Pauline, Sister Shanice, and all the wonderful people out there. No matter what rights them bring out, is we got to stand up for our right. Give thanks.
Give thanks. Absolutely agree with you on that, Dr. Abu. You know, and as you was talking, you know, I was thinking about what you were saying there, the labeling, the power of labeling. You know, if they don't like a movement that's happening, they brand it with a negative kind of connotation or a labeling that's designed to insult, that's designed to, you know, ostracize a particular group. That's what they do. And as you said, they don't like when we stand up for ourselves. And clearly, what this is about is stripping away the little bit of rights that we as a people have. And as our sister Pauline has said, we're the ones who are going to be adversely impacted by this, as we always are. And if we consider what's going on at the moment in terms of the changes to the nationality bill and the proposals there that will enable them to strip away our rights as even citizens of this country, if the changes to this human rights bill goes through, there'll be no comeback. You'll have to appeal to the same people who kicked you out. You know?
Yeah, and one of the, sorry, Sister Shanice, you finish and then I'll.
So I was just looking down the road, my sister, seeing where they're going with this. Clearly, they want to have total control. Clearly, they want to be stripping away people's rights. Whose rights are they going to look to strip away first? Our rights. The rights that our parents and our ancestors have fought for and what we have achieved so far. What are they doing at the moment that's already negatively impacting or directly adversely impacting on us as a people? Yeah, they're implementing mass deportations. They are sensitizing us, yeah, to the idea of deportation, so that when they decide to upscale it, yeah, at the moment, you know, we can challenge it, we can take it to the human rights and challenge it, but if they have their way, we won't even be able to challenge it. And there could come a day, yeah, when third generation even British find themselves on a plane being sent back to a country that they've never ever visited. Don't put it past these people. Over to you, Sister Pauline, and then I'll go to the chat.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think is a really good example of where they're going is one of the things that the Bill of Rights that they want to bring in is if you do want to go to the Human Rights Court, because they can't take us out of there, but if we do want to go there, they're putting a higher standard of proof on you to be able to go there. And you have to effectively show that you've suffered a serious disadvantage. And that is what you have to show. And it's an additional level of proof that you need to show. And the comparison to that is the Windrush compensation scheme. In that, for Black people to claim compensation, and for the people I have worked with, I have to talk to them about the impact this victimization has had on them. And the compensation requires that they go to the heart of their pain in writing to talk about what they've experienced. And that is a standard of proof that is not necessary, because all you need is the documentation to show you've been in this country all that time, and to show that you have been detrimentally affected by this. Why do you then have to go to the point of, now I need to talk to you about how much pain I went through? Because that's part of the compensation scheme. Hence, you can see the parallels between that and what they want to do with the new British Bill of Rights. You have to go an extra level. They say it's white people, Black people, whatever, but how many people other than those from ethnic minorities would really need the Human Rights Act in relation to forms of deportation, in forms of immigration? None of them. So that is why we know where they're going. So it's torturous that we can see that we are regressing backwards instead of going forward. The Human Rights Act should be bolstered, made more solid, not weakened. But they can see Black Lives Matter. They can see Black people are very powerful, more than they've ever been. But what they also see, and what frightens them more than anything, is white people are no longer sitting back and doing nothing, particularly the young white people. They are standing up and they're terrified of it. So these are the things we've got to bear in mind if we want to think about the fight and the war that we have ahead of us in defending our rights.
Absolutely. Oh my days. My sister Pauline, when you were talking about, you know, our people having to go to the heart of the trauma and the pain that they suffered, so that, you know, those who are considering their application, you know, can make a decision. It says, and you ask, you know, why do they have to, you know, go to that place of so much pain and to show, you know, that pain? It's like the trauma that's going to cause. And my mind just flashed to the lynchings and all the crowds of people that would be around to watch the pain of our people as they hung from those trees, or as a bonfire was put underneath their feet that would slowly cook them alive, and the thousands of them that would gather and enjoy watching that painful experience. There are some people out there who get a joy and a kick out of watching our suffering and hearing of our suffering, or seeing our suffering, or knowing that we are suffering as a people. Hence why they still even show those Biafran pictures on the television, like 40, 50 years after the war has ended. They love and they enjoy seeing our pain and our misery. And hence why we really do need to, as Dr. Abu was saying, come together and stand up as a people, because if we don't, they're coming for us through these acts. They're preparing the stage for a showdown. And we're the ones who's going to get thrown down.
And remember, they've got the strongest weapon that they can against us. The Kemi Badenochs, the Tony Sewells. They've got people who are with them because they believe that if they have Black people telling other Black people that things aren't that bad, that they have a voice. They are worse than any white supremacist we could ever come across, because they are our own people justifying the inequality by telling us it's not as bad, and we are victim-led by talking about it. And they are the people that make me so angry that I can't think straight when I think about them, and I apply logic to control my anger, because they are Boris Johnson's tool. They are, if we're in a war, they would be collaborators.
Yeah.
And that is what we've got to be more frightened of than anything else. Kemi Badenoch is doing more damage when she stands in Parliament. I don't care about Priti Patel, because Priti Patel's from a different background. Kemi Badenoch is of an African heritage. It frightens me that she is taking this stand in a time when we need people to be collective in their voice. So please think about what the tools are being used to beat us with. Think about how powerful Boris Johnson is with those people behind him.
Dr. Rabu
Scary.
says, serious team, serious team. You know, when our own people, you know, we've had these collaborators throughout history. You know, they've been there throughout history. These traitorous, these traitors among us, those who are prepared to sell their race for their own personal gain, their own personal wealth, or, you know, for a little bit of power and prestige. You know, they have been with us for centuries. And unfortunately, we still haven't worked out how to deal with the likes of those. And so they do continue to get used against us to our detriment.
The answer is to know your history. British people's history is their downfall. When they talk about Black people and the police, we just need to go back to 1831 when the police were created. And white people said we need to pick up staves and axes and sticks to beat the Blue Devils. That's what there was no Black people around when that was happening, because to them, they were the tool of the landowners. And there were riots because they didn't want the police. Anytime somebody tells me about Black people and the police, I take them back to 1831 when they were created, and how your own white people went after them with axes and sticks to kill them. These are the things we use, because your words will kill you, your history will kill you. If we know our history, they can't touch us. And that's the thing we've got to all do, know our history.
Mm-hmm. Know our history and know our rights, and fight to maintain and to keep those rights as well, and be in the full knowledge and awareness that if we do nothing, they've got their plans for us further down the road, and there will be no comeback. Let's go over to the audience, shall we, and find out what they are having a discussion about as we present. So thank you everybody in the audience that's commenting. Yes, not Budum and rise up, and greetings happening and conversations among each other. Rise up Gebra, rise up Richmond in the house. Let's see some of the comments. Hey, we got Mudeli in the house saying Yenge Lumbu, Kiambote, Sister Shanice. Greetings, brothers and sisters. Rise up, rise up. Good to have you in the house, my brother. Ashe, Ashe, go out to Queen and the panel. Enough respect, blessings, family. Rise up, Sister Afri Jamo. First time says, greetings from Chicago, USA. Greetings, welcome from the USA. Says, give thanks to the Most High, Creator of all the creation, the Judge, the Juror, the only one worthy of worshiping, praising, and thanking. Yes, so we give praises to that Creator that is greater than ourselves. Rise up, first time and welcome. Oh, we've got Ace 99 in the house saying the fault is the complacency of the UK-born Black people who mind every other country's business and not their own. I think we're minding our business, our country's business today, though. You must agree, Ace 99, I'm sure. Stevie saying, we'll come back to comments on that. Stevie saying, we have to unite. We have to unite, PAU, Pan-African, because it's very important. United for us African peoples, especially in Africa. So yeah, that's in response to ACE99. I suppose he's saying there, we can't just mind our own business in the UK. We have to remember that we're part of a global family. You know, we're part of a global family, and what impacts our brothers and sisters on the continent is going to impact on us in the UK as well. We can't just, in my opinion anyway, be self-conceited and think about ourselves in Africa and ignore what's going on to our brothers and sisters and the rest of the world. Ace comes back and says the current Human Rights Act has never helped a UK-born Black person. Okay, I'd agree with that. Well, we're going to to Sister Paul in a little while and hear some comments and thoughts on that. Mr. Wilfred says any human rights laws from colonizers will never be in our favor. That's right. And Ace is saying they should behave themselves. I think he said, if I went to another country and I misbehaved, oops, scrolled up too fast, sorry. If I went to another country and I misbehaved, what did he say? My apologies, I scrolled up too fast there. I'll come back to that. I think he's just saying that, you know, you'd expect to be punished, something like that. But I will find the rest of that comment. Ace is also saying that we should stand up as African Black people in the country and be counted. And Rise Up Kimani and Sister Abijama is saying, could you please explain to our brothers and sisters who do not understand who these specimens in the UKK are, who it is you are talking about? Thanks. Oh, right. So Ace is saying that he's not an African. Okay, if you're not an African, please tell us your ethnic origin. And Steve says, we African first thing is we have to unite ourselves because for our African freedom, otherwise, hey, we'll be colonies again. They will colonize us again. And Mr. Wilford is saying something along the same lines. He says the colonizers never behaved themselves when they were colonizing us as Africans. Lots of comments. Let me go over to Dr. Abu first. Lots of comments in the chat there. Would you like to pick up on any of those comments, Dr. Abu, and respond?
Well, I just want again, you know, respect Sister Pauline for what she said, you know, because sometimes we run with the headline and love to feed us with the headline. And that's all, a lot of us run on the headline, you know. What I'm saying that, you know, if you're a defending lawyer, you understand, you know, you can't make your client feel that you're offending them. You understand? And this is what the system set up to make even some of us, instead of we defend, we in an offending mood. You understand? And sometimes you can't blame them because those that teach us is offenders. You understand? If we don't know ourselves, then we become offender ourselves because we now really check that, yeah, this is what require of them, but what is required of us? You understand? That's why I always use our parents. Our parents is the one that brought us here. Our parents is the one that link us here. We can't say nothing to these people without mention our parents. You understand? And this is what I find is just a headline running amongst us. You understand, you know? And if we put that energy towards our parents, to what I see Black people are put them energy towards the Labour Party, we will be better off because the Labour Party is part of our demise. You understand? In this country. A lot of these local authority is part of our situation. You know, they help to destroy the village. You understand? So if we are looking for any rights, we have to come and unite amongst ourselves because these local authority and all of those. Look down there in Lambeth, the sexual abuse that those people been through and Black people. And you have Black counselor who didn't even care about those Black women that was being raped and all of those things. So what I'm saying that we talk about, I'm not looking about rights from them, because we know that they can't give us right. But we have a right to look after one another. We have a right, that is our right. Ubuntu. I am because we are. and because we are, therefore I am. But we under this ethos now said, I think, therefore I am. So we all get swallowed in the European culture. And that is what keeping us apart from uniting and listening to one another and pay some respect towards one another. That's how I see it, blood.
Yes, Dr. Abu, we hear you loud and clear on that. It's up to us. The power lies definitely with us to stand up and take the action that's needed. Sister Pauline, there was a number of comments in the chat there. Were there any that you wanted to pick up on and comment on?
Yeah, I would say that I don't agree on the fact that on the fact that the Human Rights Act doesn't work for us, because it doesn't. It's not fair and it's not level. It's not level. So if you have a level playing field, that's great, but we don't have a level playing field. But one of the things I've learned in life is if a door is shut, you kick it open. It's there and it exists and we have a right to it. And nobody's going to tell me I don't have a right to justice. That is what I fight for, because I don't care that it's not playing out how it should. What I care about is that you will make sure it plays out how it should if I've got anything to do with it, because it's a tool and every tool is precious. Whether it's a strong tool or a weak tool, we've got to make it work for us because it's all we have. And one of the strongest things I would say is that no matter where we go in life, a lawyer will walk into court, myself, and I will be asked, what case is coming on next? Because they're assuming I'm the clerk of the court and not the lawyer. But then you've got the black people in the dock who they're assuming are the defendants. So whether you're a lawyer, even professors who have qualified and done everything they need to do to become professors cannot get through the door. So what is the difference between a young boy that's excluded from school and somebody who's achieved their goals? The government and the way we're treated is exactly the same, but the difference is this. My mindset is, hell no, I have every right to this Human Rights Act, and I will fight until the end of time to stop you from changing it, because I have a right to be treated fairly. And that is what they hate. They hate the fact that we will not walk away from something because it's there for us, just like it's there for everybody else. So I would say to everybody, please bear in mind that we can't waste time worrying about whether something is good or bad. We just need to know that it's there, and we need to come together to make it as strong as we can for us. And if we feel aggrieved, we do something about it and we fight our corner, because where else are we going to go? What else are we going to do? What else can we do? And if we don't do it, hell no. My dad came to this country and my mum came here in 1961. And my dad struggled in order to give us a better life. So I am never going to allow them to take away my right to equality, because my parents worked so hard to give me that right. How dare they try to take that away from me? So everything that I do is with that in my mind. Yes, I'm a lawyer, and yes, I'm in the system, but it's not any easier for me because of the color of my skin. If anything, I am more detested by them because of what I am and what I do and how I speak and what I am. They hate that. So we have to find a way as people to come together and not be fragmented and not say, oh, the Human Rights Act ain't no good because it don't. That's not what it's about. The Human Rights Act is there for us. Let's use it when we have to, and let's work together to support it. Because if we don't, where else are we going to go to? What else are we going to go to? Who else are we going to go to? That's what and I'd love the answer to that. If people could tell me that, that would be wonderful.
Serious thing.
Rise up,
So that's
rise up.
me.
Rise up, my sis. You know, at the beginning of your presentation, and welcome, Brother Kwame. We're coming over to you next. Hopefully, you have been tuning in. But my sis, at the beginning of your presentation, you reminded us that, you know, at the point when the Human Rights Act came in, we weren't even considered as full human beings. You know, we were considered as chattel, as property, as goods, you know, that could be traded, as chattel goods. And so, you know, our parents and our ancestors had to fight for the right to be recognized as full human beings. You know, we are the human beings. Imagine the Neanderthals, you know, descendants of beasts, saying that we're not full human beings. They really have reversed the script on us. And so clearly, what they're aiming and trying to do is to strip away all of our rights. And before we know it, we could be slowly sleepwalking back into enslavement, where we are again considered to be, you know, less than. That's why I don't use the term supremacy, because they're not more supreme than us. You know, if we call them white supremacy, we're saying that we're inferior. Anything superior means that the opposite is inferior. And they are not more superior to us. Our history, you know, is testimony of that fact. Oh dear, our brother's dropped out. I should have brought him in quicker. Oh good, he's coming back. Yeah, our history is testimony of the fact that we are the great ones and our ancestors are the great ones. But let me bring in Brother Kwame Gonza while we've got you and the technicals are working. Rise up, Brother Kwame. Oh boy, gone again. Hopefully he'll be back with us again. You know, this is what happens, family. You know, that he's living on the continent, the richest continent in the world, and it is so stripped and so abused. They have so little rights at the moment that they ain't even got proper internet. Yeah, you know, all of the materials and that's being used to create the infrastructure comes from the continent. You see, so these people, they will suck you dry and give you nothing in return if you don't demand it. Hey, I think I dropped the draw. Let's go back to the chat, and I'm just readmitting our brother Kwame, and let's find out from our brothers and sisters in the chat what they say. Okay, so yeah, so our brother was saying, Ace 99 was saying, yeah, if he went to another country and misbehaved, he would be deported or expect to be deported. Mundeli says, a very important and clearly presented show. The European Human Rights Act morphed into the brutish human rights. Steve is saying, whatever UK, however, in America or European, US, Africa, people, especially Black people, you know, we have to get freedom and justice, because we are also people like every other. Yes, indeed. Rise up, Sister Afrijamo, reminding everybody to kindly hit the like button. Yeah, please do give us a thumbs up. Please do like the video so that more people can get to watch it. Okay, let me scroll down to the bottom and make my way up. Rise up, Kalifani, Kwame, who's saying, your children will pay the price for your inferiority. Yes, if we're going to go around with an inferiority complex and not stand up to do the works that need to be done, then yes, indeed, our children will pay the price. So are we going to stand up like the men and women we are and ought to be standing up and showing the world that we are? Or are we going to continue to behave like cowards, you know, and cower beneath those who, you know, some perceive as being the almighty and all great, and us being the reverse of that? What say you? Brother Kwame, welcome.
Thank you very much, Sister Shanice. Greetings to you and greetings to our dear viewers. Greetings to Miss Pauline, Dr. Abu. Greetings to everyone. Thank you very much for having me. It is indeed a very important topic. In fact, yesterday we were discussing about such a phenomenon that we have a situation where people in power have failed to deliver on their promises, on their responsibilities, and in turn, they turn around with these excesses, whereby they have separated themselves from the people they are governing, and they have become sort of demigods. In turn, they make it a festival of bringing about new laws. I don't know whether these laws is what they want to show that they are working, you see. And so since the 1940s, 1945, the Reagan era, the era, 60s, 70s, 80s, the Reagan and Thatcher era, these people, they moved the world in a direction whereby they alienated themselves from the people they are governing. And so people have been exploited. And now people, when they demand for something new, they demand for their rights. They turn around to pretend as if they are working by making these new laws. And I think it is only right for us to resist and say, you can't just make laws when you have not addressed these problems which have been existent, within us for a very long time. So today people are demanding for a new world. And that is what we are calling a new, world order. We are demanding a new world because the system that has been existent for a very long time has not delivered. The promises have not been delivered. The promises of economic justice have not been delivered. The promises of human rights, especially for the African people, whether you're talking about the UK, the United States, have not been delivered. So the Black people, especially the African people, have been taken, from the frying pan, to the fire in many, many cases. If you talk about slavery, colonialism, Jim Crow, apartheid, and now we have the era of mass incarceration. All these problems have not been addressed. And yet, many of the constitutions, if you look around, if you look at them, they have these proclamations of human rights. So I think it is only right that we demand that they implement the laws which are already there and existent, instead of abrogating, more powers to themselves and claiming that, they are working. So this is, as an African, this is how I can only look at it.
Thank you so much. Brother Kwame, as you were speaking there and you were talking about, Africans on the continent being denied their human rights, I was thinking of the children down the mines. I was thinking of the people who have been forced to dig, for those minerals with their bare hands or, ill-equipped tools. I was just shuddering when I was reminded of the story by one of our brothers, of the children in the Congo who die in those mines and then are buried, on the site, and then their parents don't even know where they were buried. They're buried as soon as they die. That is the extent of the disrespect and the lack of human rights that some of our children have on the continent. And it's just a reminder of how far these people will go in terms of taking away the rights that we have. If we think, things are bad today, it could get. This is a reminder of how bad it could get and why we really need to stand up and stand together. As someone in the chat was saying, we need to stand up and fight for our rights.
Absolutely.
So Kwame, thank you for bringing in the continental perspective on that. There was something else that came to my mind as you were speaking. It's gone out of my head, but let's bring in Dr. Abu.
You did. Today we're talking about human rights. But yesterday, when they trample upon our tradition and our cultural rights, with the help of us, because all the human rights things we're going to go for, if we don't get back our culture and our tradition and start to pay respect to our ancestors, it doesn't mean nothing. You understand? It does not mean a thing. Our biggest problem, we are looking through the lens of the European and want to look and want to see the stars. You know, we are using the tools that the oppressor give us to free ourselves, and that will never happen until we go back to our cultural African spirituality and tradition. We will keep on going around like some headless chicken. You understand? Until we establish these things, you know, and be brave enough to say, this is who we are, instead of this is what they give us. Because all the other rest of things them out there, that is what destroying us. The reason why they can take away our human rights and do all of those things to us, because we African people, we don't have no more respect for our mothers and fathers, but we will go and want to talk about Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and some people that we don't know. This is what the European has done to us. And then from they take away our tradition and spiritual rights. That's why they're allowed to break down all the rest of things. So sometimes we are sitting here building our own damn gallows. Simple as that.
We hear on that, Dr. Abu, you know, some real truths there. And there's someone in the chat that concurs with what you were saying on the importance of spirituality. And so Rise Up Known Child, who says, we should never forget that we are at war. It's a spiritual war, not physical. The more we unite, the more we raise our vibration, we will defeat them. That is true. When we come together as a people, we are powerful. We are the Almighty. We are the all-powerful when we come together. That's why, you know, they spend 24/7 trying to divide us as a people, because they know the potential of our power. My sister Pauline, you may want to respond to something that Brother Kwame brought to the table in terms of, you know, broadening the discussion to the realization of where we're at on the continent in terms of the abuse of human rights there.
The World Watch Human Rights did every year they do Human Rights Watch on every country in the world. And they found that there's breaches all over the world with human rights, but they found that Britain, lack of human rights for the Windrush was a very significant element in relation to how Black people are treated in this country. They came down to that in 2021, they determined that. They also determined that the British government were wrong in failing to acknowledge the detrimental effect COVID was having on the Black community, because Kemi Badenoch would say that it's a problem that everybody's experiencing, and they would not acknowledge the fact that Black people were more so, and ethnic minorities were being more so affected by this. So there's a denial, and that's what the Human Watch found, that there's a denial. And one of the things I would love to talk about is spirituality, because it is the strongest weapon and the strongest gauge that we have. Because when I was reading up about enslavement, I tried to understand how people can say that they believe in Christianity and they believe in the Lord Jesus Christ and they believe in all those things that are holy and good, and allow enslavement. How can the two come together? And when I read up on it, there was some fantastic research done on it. And the research showed that in order to justify enslavement, what the missionaries would do, they would come to the Caribbean and into Africa, and they would say to the landowners and to the plantation owners that your slaves need to be freed because it's wrong. It's wrong in the eyes of God. But the missionaries were being killed and murdered by the plantation owners for saying that. So what did the missionaries do? The missionaries decided, well, we're not going to get what we want by doing it this way, So we're going to tell the enslaved, your freedom will come when you die in the eyes of God. When you die, you will be free. But then what did the slave owners say? Are you telling me when I get to heaven, I'm going to be next to a black person? Even in death, they wouldn't accept it. Yeah. And so what they do is they say the Bible says you must obey your master. So the slave owners actually used the Bible as a reason to justify slavery. So religion is one of the strongest weapons to use against inequality, but it's also the strongest weapon to use in favor of it. People will always use the book of God to dictate what they want it to dictate. And enslavement was the biggest example of that ever. So I see with you, Dr. Abu, I see what you're saying, but what I do think is I'm a religious person, but I don't know how I can justify how people utilize the Bible to justify evil, which is what they did. And they won't accept that's what they did. So I would say you were right that we need to look at it for what it is, not for what we think it should be, because it's white people telling us about religion. But when they tell us about it, they flipped it so you die and you go to heaven and you get your freedom there. Because they know that if they say you're going to get your freedom when you're living, the landowners and the slave owners will kill you. So they actually set a Bible alight and beat an enslaved person with it to show them that you are not going to use the book to educate yourself. So I completely understand how we feel about religion and how awful it can be for us as Black people historically and even now.
Well, Sister Pauline, I hear you, know. You know, if you never tell me that you were a religious person, I would have seen you as a spiritual person. Because, boy, what I'm saying that this is what, and His Majesty said that we must not mix up spirituality with religion, because it's through your spirituality where you're cutting through those jungle of oppression on our people. You understand, you know? Which a lot of religious people sit one side and want to shut you up. Because them said, where you kill up yourself and the Lord will come. Just wait for the Lord. So, you know, give thanks, my friend. Give thanks. Give thanks.
Thank you.
Give thanks indeed. Take myself off mute. Yes, let's bring back Kwame Gonza while he's with us, because he's had a lot of challenges with his Wi-Fi this evening. Brother Kwame.
I was just reflecting on what Miss Pauline here was saying and Dr. Abu. And when it comes to culture, really, I think we need to redefine our society as Africans, and we are working on it. There is a lot of dissatisfaction all around the
Wow, brother gets stuck, you know.
Oh, yes, our brother's frozen.
Yeah.
So yes, it is very difficult to reconcile, you know, absolutely agree. The indoctrination that went on during the time of enslavement. As we know, the Bible was forced upon our people as well. Our people were forced to follow that indoctrination. And they needed to impose that on us as a people, because had they not done so, we would have continued to fight against the abusive treatment. But instead, they used verses in the Bible, you know, that told us that we should accept our situation the way it is. And it's really awful. I think people should read the letter that was written by King Leopold II. That letter describes to the T the verses in the Bible that they were told to use and to quote us. And of course, once the missionaries, which they also did, indoctrinated the children, and you had the children growing up in these fairy stories and fairy tales, they then, when they got older, went on to indoctrinate their children as well. and the rest is history, as they say. And we still continue, you know, to believe in those false doctrines until today. And you see, they were very clever, because if you consider the wickedness and the evil that was meted out to us during our enslavement, and if you consider the fact that there was no savior that came to save us then, you know, most free-thinking, spirited people would know that if there was ever a time when we needed a savior, it was back then, you know, when we were being skinned alive, when we were being, you know, horse-drawn or quartered, when we were being barbecued, when we were being lynched, when we were being whipped to death, when there was dogs tearing at our skins. If there was ever a time, you know, when we needed a savior to save our children that were being taken away at night and fed to the crocodiles and all kind of awful things, it was then. But there was no savior that came to save us. But you know what they told us? That savior, they gave us an image of that savior being white. And so in so doing, if we believe that our savior is white, then we suffer from white savior syndrome, where we're always looking, you know, to a white person to come and save us, because the angels were white, Jesus was white, God was painted as white, Adam and Eve was painted as white, all the people in the Bible were painted as white. So who are we? You know, in the Bible, we were meant to be the descendants of Ham, the cursed ones. Let them believe that they were cursed, and then they will accept their position as the inferior one, as the low ones. And so I agree, psychologically, religion has really damaged us as a people, you know, but before religion, we were spiritual people. You know, we had spirituality, we have, you know, a natural ability to know right from wrong. We didn't need a book to dictate to us how we conduct ourselves, because we are a people with a soul and a people with a spirit. Let me see what our people are saying over in the chat. So rise up, King Jah, who's saying beasts of no nation, referring to the so-called UN. Animal one dash me human rights. How do you expect a group of animals to offer you human rights? Go figure it out. Okay, obviously he's going back to the Neanderthal status of the Europeans and saying, you know, how can you expect these descendants of these beasts really to respect the rights of the real humans, the hue, H-U-E, those with hue and those with color, the real people of the earth, who we are? How can we expect them to be treating us, you know, with human rights if they themselves are descendants of the beast? Known child is saying, time to get back to universal natural law and elevate ourselves from their madness. Absolutely agree with that. What's Ace 99 saying? He says, nobody is a minority in their native land. We are definitely the majority in this world. And Letitia Morris is saying, it is our responsibility to make them accountable. We must work as a collective. They work for us. That's how it should be. They ought to work for us. And at one time, that's how it was. But we have fallen because we have these treacherous, treasonous sellouts among us who, for a few pieces of silver, 30 pieces of silver, for a better job, for a better quality of life, you know, for a position of power, are prepared to sell us out. That's a problem that we have. Known Charles says, the more we seek to follow and include ourselves in their man-made laws and acts, the more they will keep changing the goalpost. Yes, you scroll down. Rise up, Black Acres of the Gambia in the house, saying, yes, yes, Dr. Abu, the only way. Rise up, glad to have you in the house. Rise up, Dennis Black, who's saying true, and bigging up Ace 99 in one of his comments there. And, you know, the Jamaica Junker, another Oz. Rise up, the Jamaican Junker channel, who said, Biden said that we must expect 100 million cases of COVID in America this winter. Why, they're not done with that yet. And still I come with them foolishness. Why, oh boy. Kaki, rise up, Tenda Mwari. And Lilithia is saying, just say no. Absolutely, just say no. And also goes on to say that the individual spirituality, yes, religion is for the world. Dominant class control. Spirituality, however, is for the individual. That's right. And the Jamaican Chankra say, religion is the opioid of the masses, the opioid of the masses. Yes, it's what many of our people clutch onto, cling onto, because, you know, they just can't cope with the pressures of life. But, you know, when things get rough, I just remind myself of what our ancestors had to go through on those days during the plantation. If we think things are bad today, they are nowhere near as bad as it must have been for our ancestors. And if they could survive and go through what they went through so that we are here today, because we are the descendants of those survivors, if they could survive and go through all of what they went through, then, you know, what we're going through today, you know, is nothing in comparison. So we really need to start standing up and standing together as a people. And we really need to get back into our right mind, because we have to be not in our right mind, some of our people, to be endorsing and embracing, you know, some of these mad policies that are being put our way, especially on the continent. You know, countries like Zambia considering allowing, you know, the US to have a base on their soil. Complete madness. You know, you have to not know your history to allow your former enslaver back into your backyard with all their arsenal and ammunition. I mean, how crazy is that?
Can I
allow you to come in? Yes, my sis.
Sorry, Kwame. Yeah, because I was just said something.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So what I was saying, I wanted to pick up from where I left off before the network disturbed me a little bit, is that there is a new awakening among the people, and this new awakening is due to the fact that there has been a lot of deception that is, you know, been going on around, and I want to tie in with the point Dr. Abu was making, or when it comes to culture, is that our culture has been relegated, you know, to the background, you know, to the point that it is not involved in the economic systems that we are running. Our culture is not consulted. The governance systems which we are running, our culture is not consulted. How we treat our women, our cultures are not consulted. And instead, we are consulting foreign doctrines like the Bible, the Quran, and all of them which come from you know, systems and civilizations which are patriarchal in their, you know, nature, that they, in a certain, to a certain extent, they oppress instead of bringing freedom. Instead of bringing freedom, people are oppressed. When you're talking about economics, the whole Western system is based on the violation of the human rights of the majority of the people of the earth. You know, when you're talking about the global South. So when these people are talking about Transparency International, Human Rights Watch, and all these organizations, but the United States is imposing sanctions on Iraq, you know, and 500,000 people are dying, children, you know, and then you're talking about human rights. And then at the same time, you go into Iraq and you kill more than 1 million civilian people. And at the same time, you're talking about human rights. You know, you impose sanctions on countries like Zimbabwe, and people, you know, suffer with you know, getting food, and the country is put under, you know, unimaginable economic domination and exploitation and destruction. And at the same time, it is these people who are talking about human rights. So there is, you know, something contradictory here. And the fact that we have emerged in an era where information is free for all of us now, unlike in the past years where our ancestors had to walk 10 miles to find a book to read. We have the information here. So it is up to us to challenge this kind of, you know, understanding. And I'm very optimistic, you know, about the future, because the young people have come out now and have started to understand these systems of deception and how they have been, you know, operating. Like when you talk of countries like Ghana, people are demanding a new constitution, and these are the young people. Okay, even recently, about last week, the president in the country, Ghana, came out to defend the constitution and say people should have faith in the constitution, how it was written, the 1992 constitution. But the young people are saying this constitution is not reflecting, what it is supposed to deliver. Okay, the ruling class is burdening it on the people. The ideals of our forefathers have been, relegated to the background. You see, the economic benefits are not there. We are not seeing them. Okay, the dreams which people like Dr. Kwame Nkrumah laid out have been abandoned. The dreams of Pan-Africanism in the 1960 Constitution of Ghana, the Pan-Africanism was a leading idea, to the extent that they wrote even in the Constitution of Ghana that Ghana will give up its independence for the good of Africa, for the construction of an African state. But all these things were removed from the constitution. So what are we saying? While Ghana and Ivory Coast are producing majority of the cocoa, and whose cocoa, the labor which is being used is for children. When you go to these cocoa farms, children, most of them children, are the ones working on these cocoa farms. And then in Switzerland, and other European capitals, they are enjoying the chocolate, while these people are getting pennies on there. So we see, a narrative here which does not line up. It doesn't sync very well with the actions. While you are talking about human rights, you are enjoying the chocolate, which is being the chocolate which is being given to you by child labor in our African countries, and not because we want to put these children to the labor, but because you are paying a very small price for these products. You are paying very small price for the cocoa, and the people, they don't have enough money even to send the children to school. So in turn, these children are sent, to cocoa farms to be able to farm and then send goods. Now the gold is transported, is taken outside the countries. European companies are taking out the gold. So you find that the economic rights of the people, if we are talking about human rights, economic rights are inclusive. This exploitation that is going on, the exploitation of African resources, and denying the African child and the women who are on the streets, selling small goods, most of them which are imported from China. They are doing this because they have been denied the economic benefits of which come from the land. Our resources are being shipped off, to European capitals, to Canada, to America, everywhere, and our people are suffering on the street. So we want that. If you are talking about human rights, the economic rights have to be part of it. Instead of having us a world where only 1% enjoy the rest of the world, while 99% or 90% of the population in the world is living on less than $1. So this is unacceptable. I think we as a people, we have to continually stand up, not only in our African nations, but also around the world, up organizations like the UN, and like Marcus Garvey said, that the Negro will not accept the camouflage anymore. And so even today we have to say, in the same spirit which Honorable Marcus Garvey used, and say the African will not accept hypocrisy anymore. We will not accept this hypocrisy. We have to demand that these, so-called leaders, they act according to what they are saying. It is not about saying human rights when you are doing a different thing on the other side. And then that brings us also, I think, to religion. When you look at religion, how the Africans looked at spirituality, or what we call, many of us call religion. I think this is also human rights. I think here it comes into context, because to a larger extent, the African spirituality has been destroyed and decimated. And these are the things which actually they don't count when they are talking about, for example, reparations. And we see that there is a lot of human rights violation when it comes to spirituality, that the African was, spirituality, this foreign spirituality was imposed on him, by force. And there has not been a deliberate effort to rehabilitate the Africans and give them back their spirituality which was found with them. Instead, We have seen more aggressive, hegemonic, forms of religion now emanating from the United States, from the capitalist United States. And that capitalist form of religion now has come onto the African continent to continue to exploit the people and violate in turn their rights. We have seen preachers, or in many African countries, stepping on women's, stomachs. They say they are praying for them. Some of them slapping them and say they are slapping, demons out of them. Some of them, they have been giving them, detergents, like, detergents, like they are taking away, sicknesses and demons out of their body. So you find that this whole, allegation and the claim that the white man came with and continues to come with as a form of salvation to the Africans is the same thing which is saying even today that he's talking about human rights as the champion of human rights. In fact, it has been rather a violation of the rights of the African people. When you look at it from the 17th century all the way up to now, it's just violation, exploitation, culturally, socially, economically, politically. All of it is just violation. Every time where you look at the white man, where he has been and how he has imposed himself onto the Africans and how he has integrated himself into the systems in Africa, all of it has been violation of human rights. So when they talk about human rights, I really don't understand which type of human rights they're talking about. I think it is high time that we as Africans, we start redefining what human rights are. We redefine it in the context of how much we as Africans have suffered for the last 600 years, for the last 500 years, 600 years. We have to redefine it in that context. Like how China has redefined it. China is saying that the United States cannot talk about human rights. The European countries cannot talk about human rights. When they have, more than 1 million Africans in the prisons in the United States, the Africans constitute only 12% of the population in the United States, but they constitute 51% of the population of the prison population in the United States. So this is human rights. If this is not human rights, then what it is? This is not human rights violation. Then what it is? What is this that they are talking about? So China has decided to redefine what human rights is. And it has decided to look at things like the shootings, for example, in places like Chicago in the United States, the destruction of Black families. All these are human rights. The denial of insurance, for example, health insurance, that people have to pay every penny they have for just health, for them to survive as health. And yet, things like healthcare should be a human right, because this is a right to survive, a right to exist. But this is something that has been monetized. So you see that human rights has to be redefined, and it has to be defined, redefined in the African context, looking at how much we have suffered and what we have gone through as African people. So that is my take. Economically, socially, politically, and culturally, we have to take back our understanding and redefine our culture politically, and then we have to redefine ourselves economically and socially in all these ways, and then we will set a new standard also. And I believe that this can be done. I'm very optimistic about the future and the next generation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brother Young Kwame Gonza. I'm very optimistic about the future. We just need, an army of Young Kwame Gonzas, and I tell you, change will happen as it did in the late 50s, early 60s, when, those revolutionary freedom fighters all came together and decided that they were going to force through change. I see we've been joined by Brother Jammers. Oh, why make you come so late?
Sorry about that. The class that ran really late, so I have to apologize.
Yes,
it just went over time,
That shows how good your classes are. So, family, just to remind you, Brother Jammers has started running his master classes in etymology.
Thank you.
He's on week 2 now. You can still join and catch up on the next round as well. Not only does he do them on a Wednesday, but also, yes, I just get that mosquito. Sorry about that, family. Sorry, mosquito, but you keep me up all night the other night. Anyway, sorry about that. Yes, you can do the courses on a Sunday. as well. Rise up, Brother Jammers. Let me come back to you in just a second and allow you to share with the audience about your pause and also to comment on anything you want to that you've heard so far if you've had the chance to listen in. Sister Pauline, you gave way for Brother Kwame to come in.
It was thank you, Denise. It's very quick. It was going back to when we think about how we need to think about whether we are allowing the powers of other countries to come into the Caribbean and come into Africa. And one of the things that I researched and I found was an amazing story, which I think will uplift us all, is in the Second World War, when they made the lease agreement with America, England made the lease agreement, Churchill made the lease agreement with Eisenhower. And that lease agreement meant that they gave millions and millions and millions of pounds to Britain so that they could stay in the war. And part of that plan was that they would send ships to Jamaica and they would park their ships in Jamaica, their warships. But when the GIs went over there, the GIs went over to Jamaica with the mindset that they took with them from America with the Jim Crow laws. And that was that blacks are inferior and that they would use the N-word and that if they went to a bar, there can't be any black people in there. So what they would do is they would go to a bar and they would demand that the Jamaicans leave because they don't drink with blacks. So what the Jamaicans did was they would all group together, come together as a unit. And when they saw these men come, they would beat the living daylights out of them and throw them out because that, and they did the same in the army when they came to this country and the GIs came with their Jim Crow mindset. They would beat the living daylights out of them. And that is the things that you don't see. You see the tension, but nobody actually shows. During the 1958 riots in Notting Hill, the Jamaicans and the Caribbeans came together in Notting Hill and kicked the living daylights. Of course, a lot of them got arrested alongside the whites, but they all came down and they did the same thing. So when I tell you that we are a powerful people, and no matter how tough a piece of legislation is or how difficult a mindset is, when we come together in the 40s, in the 50s, it's not going to make a difference because we come together when we come together. And I wanted to just raise that because it was one of the strongest things I'd written. And it was something that I enjoyed reading because it was an important thing to read about historically. So I thought I'd share that.
Thanks very much, Sis, for sharing those examples of how, you know, we can bring about change when we come together. And, you know, back then we were clear about who the enemy was as well. But there seems to be a lot of confusion these days. They're doing a good job on the mind. Let's go over to our mastermind in the house. Over to you, Robert Jammers. Welcome.
Don't go that far. We need our own. What qualification have they got to talk about human rights? You know, human comes from morality. You know, what second in the whole of the history of the planet or the time frame of the planet have they done anything right or moral? You know, how can someone who can't drive a car teach you how to drive? How can a murderer tell you how about truth and justice? So we can't even accept anything in relation to a human rights bill because they're not qualified to even call that name out. And what is a right? A right could also be a ritual, something that you do without a thought process. And they do not have no qualification of doing anything morally with a thought process. Their psyche, spirituality, mentality doesn't do anything morally right. So how can they pass a law that defines our existence? So this is why we need a body to come together and dispel this obliteration on us as a race. We can't recognize a murderer, a rapist, a torturer to be able to give us a law to follow. I mean, it's about in the memory of our ancestors and in moving our young stars to a place of optimizing their existence on the planet and moving for us to define ourselves. Now's the time for us to define ourselves. Definition means someone can't call something on you. You know, that's why we have to give 300 million% resistance against another set of people trying to tell us how to live our existence. You know, no species of animal on the planet can dictate another species of animal's existence. Otherwise, we are being, we are helping ourselves to put ourselves out of existence. That's what the path we're on. If we recognize the sounds coming out of these people's mouth or the laws that they're trying to put on us. And this is the kind of stance we have to take against them. You know, they cannot put a word on us or a law on us. They've done enough of that. And look what's happened to us. You know, look at all the moves that they've made. Their people can't even breathe in air anymore through the movements that they've made. Every move they've made is on obliteration. You know, they are on a pathway to exterminating themselves and replacing themselves with machines. You know, so why should we follow this madman on the path of self-destruction? We need to do something for ourselves. Boom.
Absolutely agree with all of what you said there, Brother Jammers. How can we follow a mad person who's on a path to destruction? And you're right. That's what we all seem to blindly do. And, you know, we're trying to argue for morality and for sense, for these people to see some morality and to see some sense and some humanity in what they're proposing to do, without, as you're saying, reminding ourselves that they have no morality. You know, when you look at their history and their history of destruction and genocide upon the planet, you know, it ought to be a reminder of the serious situation that we are in. You know, we can't even, you know, speak of those who were the original people of Australia, because they've wiped them all out, almost all of them all out. They wiped out the original people of Canada, the original people of the Americas, the original people of, you know, so many parts of the world. They've been wiped out through genocide, and these people are continuing on their path of destruction. And as was said in the chat earlier, we're at war and most of us don't even realize it, you know, because we're being given little trinkets and sugary meals along the way. And we don't realize, you know, that we're in hot water and serious problems as a people. Wow, wow, wow. The time has absolutely flown by today. We are 6 minutes away from the top of the hour.
Wow.
My sister Pauline, we want to thank you so much for the great work that you're doing, raising our awareness about the importance of this human rights bill, and also, you know, for raising our awareness of the potential implications of the changes, and also for raising our awareness, for also in so doing, giving us the opportunity to talk about some of the wider issues impacting on us as a people, and why it's so important for us to stand up, come together and fight together as a people. Brother Jammers, let me give you the opportunity just to remind people of how they can get on your mastermind etymology course, should they wish to do so.
They can simply text me on my phone number 07931 417 553. Once again, 07931 417 553. Or they can email me at mastermindintelligencecenter at gmail.com. At mastermindintelligencecenter at gmail.com with your name and mention Sister Shanice for your 50% discount. So once again, Mastermind Intelligence Center, it's written there. Email or 07931 417 553. Text your name and Sister Shanice.
In the chat. So Jammers, this is for Jammers' course. What's the number? 07. Yeah.
931 417 553.
553. That's your phone number. And
text name and Sister Shanice
as well, because it's an online course, so you can join from anywhere in the world. Okay, so I'm gonna include the area code there. If you don't need the area code, use the 0. If you need the area code, then just delete the 0. And what's your email?
The Mastermind Intelligence Center at gmail.com.
The Mastermind Intelligence, Telligence.
Yes.
Center.
Yeah.
Center or
Yeah.
RE?
Mick.
ENCENTRE.
RE, you do the RE.
So either mention Sister Shanice or Vudum, and you get 50% discount.
Right, so it's the Mastermind Intelligence Center at
Gmail.com.
At gmail.com. Okay, so get in touch and get your 50% discount. Very generous of you there, my brother. Dr. Abu, as always, you know, it's such a soldier. Family, when I'm backstage, yeah, sweating, thinking, oh my gosh, where's my panel members? They're not turning up. The first one who always turns up is Dr. Abu. If everyone was like Dr. Abu, I tell you, we'd have these debates every strong. But why, me can't take the pressure. Hey, so rise up, Dr. Abu. As always, thank you so much for your support and for your Budum input. You know, any final words from you, Dr. Abu?
Yeah, man. Once again, rise up to the panel, Sister Pauline. You know, we're talking about human rights. You know, as I said, Wazungu always tell we to go back where we come from, yeah? But he can't go back where he come from, because he have all his ancestor on the Caucasus Mountain. You know, see that we must have some humor in a way, you know, because we are humor people. You know, anytime I see Wazungu, me always laugh. You know, they make me laugh because I say, blows not. He never even stay long in the of me. He come out half done. You know, that Urugu blood. You understand? You see, when you overstand Urugu, Wazungu is no more problem to me. My problem is the attitude and behavior of our African people. That is my problem at the moment. Voodoo.
Yeah. Voodoo, because we're not in our right mind. And I've managed to get the flyer up. Here we have the Galaxy Afiwi, Parents and Ancestors Day flyer event. It's going to be taking place on Friday, the 3rd of June, and it's going to be at the Elms Community Centre. Oh, my apologies, it is on Bellington Road, 86 Bellington Road. Earlier I said it was on Elms Grove, but it's not.
Near there.
Yeah, it's on the junction, isn't it? At the junction of Elms Grove and Bellington Road. And the postcode is SE154RQ. Is it going to be online as well, Dr. Abu? Will those of us who are
we're going to talk to Jack Bombus if we can get it there.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. So it's going to be an amazing day. We're going to be celebrating our parents and our ancestors, those who have gone before us. You know, there's going to be liberation and solidarity messages, music, cultural performances, voodoo vibrations, enough things are one. And remember to put the Starlight Global logo on that as well.
Send it to me.
Okay, will do. So I'll stop share that one. The other one, other major event that we've got coming up as well, family, that I'd really love to tell you about is the African Liberation Day event. Let's see if I can get that up on the screen and played for you now. Here we go.
African Liberation Day present a two-day event at the Atrium, 20th and 29th of May. Saturday, 11 till 7 p.m. Sunday, 11 till 10 p.m. Guest speakers, Mota Baruka, Professor Patricia Daly, Wayne D. Chandler, Dr. Umar Johnson, Cecil Gutsmore. Admission, £10 for 1 day, 15 for 2. Evening event, 20th of May.
Sorry about that. I thought that would make it bigger on the screen, but it made it disappear. So let me just rewind and come again. Sorry, here we go.
African Liberation Day present a two-day event at the Atrium, 20th and 29th of May. Saturday, 11 till 7 p.m. Sunday, 11 till 10 p.m. Guest speakers, Mota Baruka, Professor Patricia Daly, Wayne D. Chandler, Dr. Umar Johnson, Cecil Gutsmore. Admission, £10 for Swing event, 28th of May, 7:30 till 11 p.m. Dinner, dance, music and stage show. Muta Baruka, live entertainment. Admission, £20. Nottingham, NG5, 1QZ. Ticket details and styles. Contact Kwame, 07490 777 397.
There we have, you know, a wonderful event that's coming up, the African Liberation Day event. There's going to be celebrations, African Liberation Day celebrations happening across the continent and across the globe, because, you know, our parents shed, wow, rivers of blood so that we could be enjoying the little bit of liberation and freedom that we're enjoying today. So let's not take their sacrifice for granted. And so, you know, people like Muta Baruka and others, our very own Cecil Gutsmore, Wayne Chandler, and many others, Umar Johnson, Professor Patricia Daly, are all going to be celebrating with us at the Parents and Ancestors Day event. So please do put that in your diary. So I'm out of time now, over time. So I want to thank everybody in the audience that was being with us this evening. Thank you so, so much for your comments, for your questions in the chat. We thank you so, so much. I see enough job, did I go on in the chat as well. Well, let's see if I can get this one here from with the laugh. So we're making you laugh so much, Jamaican Jankro. Alternative Hotel says, the Jamaican, I agree with your saying, being eyes and ears. We in the diaspora understand more that our brothers who do not live amongst these demons. Okay, yes, that's right. When you live with somebody, you know them, and we live amongst them, so we know them. For real, for real. Mondelelli says, it's our hypocrisy is laughable, as many of us only talk about Pan-Africanism. Wow, wow, wow. And then California has talked about self-genocide. Absolutely. Some serious, serious talk of one in other chat there. So Alternative Hotel says, talk, pray to white Jesus, march in protest. This is all we do. We have been talking about integrating Africa and nothing done. As a black man, if it's not easy to get it's not easy to get a black African resident permit. So that's talking about the shortcomings of the constitution of our African countries there, whereby those of us who were taken out of Africa and want to come back can't even, you know, just go back and get residency. We have to go through a whole heap of hoops and hurdles to get residency, and that should not be the case. So family, we're already over time, but I want to thank you so much for joining us this evening. Please join me next strong, same time, 8 p.m, when I'll be going live again with a special guest, our brother, Dr. Winters, a historian. So for today, we thank our sister Pauline, we thank Dr. Abu, and we thank our brother Jammers, and we thank all of you in the studio as well, in the audience as well. So Sister Shanice out of here for now. Rise up, family. More Vudum power to each and every one of you. More love, more power, more strength.
Bye.
Bye for now.